There comes a time in the life of every nation when it stands at a crossroads. One road leads to repeating the past, the other to rewriting the future. Today I want to talk to you about Iran. Not just the land, not just the name, not just the borders, but the spirit that lives in every heartbeat of its people. Because Iran's destiny is not written in the dust of history. It is carved into the will of its people, forged in resilience, anchored in wisdom, and ready to rise to destiny. And that is our problem. We've created it. That is the reason we live in a country far different than our own that makes us progress and succeeds. But that is not the reason. Here it is. The world is running out of time. Together. For far too long, the narrative of Iran has been told to the world by governments, by media, by fear. But the time has come for Iran to tell its own story, and not as a victim, not as a pawn, but as a creator of destiny. You see, destiny is not luck. Destiny is not fate. Destiny is a decision. It is a conscious choice to rise even when the world expects you to fall. Iran has been challenged, pressured, underestimated, but every time it is staggered, it has found a way to stand. Why? Because within the soul of this nation lies a fire that does not die. A fire born from poets, from prophets, from revolutionaries and reformers, from generations who carried hope through the darkest nights. Let's go beyond politics, beyond power struggles, beyond headlines, and go straight to the people, to the youth in Shiraz writing code and dreaming startups, to the artists in Isfahan turning pain into beauty, to the students in Tehran who stay up late not just to pass exams, but to shape a new future, and to the elders who remember the pain but never forgot the pride. That is where destiny begins, in the hearts of people who refuse to be ordinary. You might be thinking, but look at what's happening. How can destiny change? Let me tell you something. The greatest change does not come when things are perfect. It comes when people are pushed to the edge and they say, enough. It comes when a generation wakes up and stops asking permission to dream. It comes when people trade complaining for creating, when they start blaming and start building. Iran's destiny is not something to wait for, it is something to take. But taking it requires one thing above all: belief. Belief that the past does not limit the future. Belief that pain is not a punishment, it is a push. Belief that every scar on this nation's body is not a sign of weakness. It is a reminder that it has survived what others could not. There's a story inside every Iranian of struggle, yes, but more importantly, of strength, of generosity, of brilliance. I've met Iranians across the world, and one thing is clear: they carry their identity not as a burden, but as a badge. And no matter where they are, London, Toronto, Dubai, Berlin, Los Angeles, they never stop loving that land, never stop praying for its rise, never stop hoping for its rebirth. But destiny does not reward those who wait, relentlessly, unshakably, and together. If there is one challenge facing Iran today, it is not the lack of potential, it is the division of energy. Energy turned against each other instead of forward. But when a people unite under one vision, when they focus not on the cracks, but on the bricks, the impossible becomes inevitable. Look at history. Empires fall, but people rise. Oppression fades, but dreams remain. No system, no regime, no challenge lasts forever. But the will of a people, that is eternal. And Iran's people have shown again and again that they will never surrender their soul. So I ask you now, not to wait for some perfect day when everything changes, but to decide this day that you will be part of the change. Whether you are a student or an engineer, a teacher or a builder, a parent or a poet, your voice matters. Your actions matter. Your decision shape the next chapter of this nation. We need more than hope. We need action. We need courage. We need the courage to speak truth when silence is easier. We need the courage to build when it feels safer to hide. We need the courage to dream when the world says, don't bother. Because destiny is not handed down, it is claimed. And Iran's destiny is not to be trapped in the shadows, its destiny is to shine, to lead in science and technology, in innovation, in culture, to be a hub of brilliance, not just resilience, to rise not in spite of its past, but because of it. The pain, the setbacks, the hardship, these are not chains, they are fuel. They are the very things that make the rise more powerful. Let the world see a new Iran, not defined by fear, but by faith. Not limited by politics, but empowered by people. Not stuck in the past, but sprinting into the future. This is the moment. This is the time. And this is Iran's destiny. Because no one gets to write your future except you. And once a nation remembers who it truly is, not what others told it was, but what it knows in its soul, that nation becomes unstoppable. A nation's destiny is not written by its past, but by the courage of its people to shape the future. History may influence us, but it does not imprison us. What has happened before, the struggles, the pain, the victories, and even the defeats can serve as lessons, but they must never be treated as limits. Iran is a nation with a rich tapestry of culture, wisdom, and legacy that stretches back thousands of years, but even with such a profound past, the real power lies in what its people decide to do next. Too often, people are told they are products of their history, that their future must mirror their past. But the truth is that the human spirit, especially when ignited by vision and courage, has the ability to rewrite any story. The Iranian people carry within them that rare fire, the strength to push forward when the world expects them to stop, the ability to dream even after years of being tested. The destiny of a nation is never carved in stone. It is built daily by the decisions, actions, and resilience of its people. Iran's past, filled with poetry, philosophy, and power, is not a cage. It is a foundation. It's not what happened yesterday that determines where a nation will go. It's the beliefs and choices of its people today. The courage to rise up, to speak, to learn, to build, and to unite. That courage is the true architect of destiny. Every time someone chooses to act with integrity, to innovate instead of imitate, to challenge the broken instead of staying silent, the future shifts. It shifts because destiny is never passive. It belongs to those who claim it, to those who understand that they do not have to accept what is handed to them. They can create something better. There is a powerful difference between remembering history and being ruled by it. The past must be honored, but it should never become a ceiling. In the streets, in the classrooms, in the homes of Iran, there are people right now who hold ideas that can transform lives, spark revolutions of thought, and rebuild hope. But these possibilities only become real when people find the courage to act. Courage doesn't mean the absence of fear. It means standing up even when fear is present. It means not waiting for perfect conditions or permission from others, but starting where you are with what you have. This kind of courage is what changes the course of a nation. All over the world, Iranians are already showing this courage, starting businesses, creating art, breaking records, finding ways to thrive in systems that weren't designed for them to succeed. They are the proof that destiny is shaped by those who dare to believe in something better. They don't allow limitations to define their identity. They rise above circumstances because they know the future is not something that just happens, it's something that is made. When enough people believe in that truth, when enough people choose to take ownership of their nation's direction, no force on earth can stop that transformation. Every challenge Iran has faced is not a curse, it's a call to rise stronger. The storms that have swept across this nation have tested its resilience, shaken its structures, and pushed its people to their limits. But within every moment of hardship lies a hidden invitation, a chance to grow beyond what was, to evolve into what could be. Difficulties don't appear to destroy a nation's spirit, they appear to reveal it. In the heart of every Iranian, there exists a deep-rooted strength that has endured centuries of turbulence, transitions, and trials. That strength is not accidental. It was built in the fire of adversity, and it continues to burn quietly, patiently, waiting for the next call to rise. Hardship is not foreign to this land. From economic sanctions to political instability, from social unrest to international pressure, Iran has carried the weight of many battles. But these battles are not the definition of the nation. They are the training ground. Every obstacle is like a mirror reflecting back the possibilities of growth. The people of Iran have been challenged again and again, yet they still move forward. They still create. They still hope. And this ability to keep going, to keep building, to keep showing up, that is not weakness. That is a rare form of national endurance. It is proof that challenge, no matter how brutal, cannot break those who choose to rise from it. When a nation is pushed, it has two choices. It can fall deeper into despair, or it can rise into strength. Rising doesn't always mean loud revolutions or dramatic change. Sometimes it's a quiet decision made in the heart of a young girl who chooses to study harder, or a father who decides not to give up on his small business, or an artist who refuses to be silenced. These small acts of defiance against despair are what build the spine of a nation. They add up, they grow, and eventually they become unstoppable. Challenge, then, is not a punishment. It is a pressure designed to awaken potential. And Iran's potential is vast. Its talent, its creativity, its cultural richness, and its intellectual depth have all survived and thrived in spite of the challenges. True strength is not found in ease. It is forged in discomfort. It is born when people are pressed to their limits and choose to expand rather than contract. Iran's challenges have created a generation that is more aware, more connected, and more hungry for progress than ever before. The youth especially, those who have inherited the consequences of past decisions, are now standing at the edge of a new possibility. They carry the scars of struggle, but also the seeds of transformation. And the more they are tested, the more they grow into leaders, thinkers, doers. The kind of people who don't accept reality as it is, but shape it into what it could be. Pain teaches. Setbacks teach. They teach patience, discipline, innovation, and empathy. They make people resourceful. They build mental toughness. And in a country like Iran, where limitations have often tried to suppress dreams, those dreams have found even deeper roots. Because when you can dream despite difficulty, that dream becomes unstoppable. It no longer depends on outside permission or ideal conditions. It becomes a mission, a personal and collective mission to rise. The greater the challenge, the more meaningful the victory. The deeper the pain, the more powerful the growth. Iran is not defined by its hardships. It is defined by how it keeps rising through them, how it keeps moving forward when standing still would be easier, how it keeps building strength with every setback it faces. The true power of Iran lies not in politics or oil, but in the potential of its people. Beneath every system, beyond every institution, and far more valuable than any natural resource, is the human spirit. The passion, the ideas, the willpower of individuals who refuse to be defined by limitation. Iran's greatest wealth does not flow from the ground. It flows from the hearts and minds of its people. It's the young inventor working on technology late into the night. It's the musician who turns pain into poetry. It's the mother who teaches strength through silence and sacrifice. It's the student who refuses to let fear write the next chapter of their life. That is where the real power lives, in the unshakable determination of ordinary citizens who choose every day to believe in something more. Resources can be stolen, markets can shift, politics can change, but the power of a people who believe in their own future is beyond any control. No law, no pressure, no force can permanently suppress the vision of a nation that is awakened. Iran has always had thinkers, builders. It is a land that birthed philosophers, scientists, artists, and leaders whose influence shaped the world. That legacy still exists, not just in books or monuments, but in the living pulse of its citizens. It exists in their ability to endure, to adapt, to learn, and to create in the face of barriers that would break others. That kind of internal strength is not just impressive, it is transformational. When a nation begins to truly recognize that its most valuable asset is its people, everything changes. Investment moves from systems to souls. Progress is not measured only by GDP or external approval, but by the growth of individuals who rise with confidence in their own power. Iran has everything it needs to lead, not in copying others, but in becoming a global example of resilience and innovation. The ingredients are there: intelligence, creativity, cultural depth, and a hunger for something better. What remains is to unleash it. And that can only happen when people stop waiting for permission to act and start believing that their voice, their effort, and their presence matter. Across cities, towns, and villages, there are people right now holding ideas that can change lives, transform communities, and break generational patterns. But for that power to come alive, it must be given space to breathe. It must be nurtured, not silenced. It must be seen, not buried. The true revolution is not always political. Sometimes it is internal. It is the moment a person shifts from helpless to hopeful, from passive to purposeful, from surviving to leading. That shift, multiplied across millions of people, becomes a force more powerful than any regime or resistance. It becomes the heartbeat of national transformation. Oil can run dry, political landscapes can shift overnight, but a population that believes in its own greatness can rebuild, reform, and rise from any fall. The world may look at Iran and see headlines, controversies, or crises, but within the country are individuals writing a different story, one of courage, contribution, and capacity. When that story becomes the dominant voice, when the people of Iran realize they are not just part of history, but the makers of it, the world will have no choice but to see the country through a new lens. The power is already there, not waiting to be discovered, but waiting to be believed in, acted on, and shared without fear. When unity replaces division, a nation unlocks its unstoppable force. The greatest threat to any people is not always from the outside, it is often the silent divide from within. Division weakens the foundation of a society, makes it vulnerable to manipulation, and drains its energy in internal conflict. But unity, real unity, built on respect, shared vision, and a sense of collective destiny, turns ordinary people into a powerful movement. It's not about everyone thinking the same or agreeing on every detail. It's about understanding that the purpose is greater than personal pride, greater than ego, greater than the need to be right. When people set aside differences and recognize that they are part of something bigger, the energy of an entire nation changes. Iran is filled with talent, creativity, and purpose, but when those forces are divided, their full impact is lost. Energy that could build businesses, design technology, create art, or educate the next generation often gets trapped in cycles of blame, suspicion, and fear. The strength of a nation is not just measured by its economy or infrastructure, it's measured by how deeply its people are connected to one another. How much they trust, how much they collaborate, and how much they believe in each other's potential. Unity creates momentum. It allows people to move faster, think bigger, and rise higher than they ever could alone. The future does not belong to the loudest voice or the strongest hand. It belongs to those who learn how to build bridges where others see walls. Division says they are different from us. Unity says we are all part of this. Division focuses on problems. Unity focuses on solutions. Division waits for someone else to act. Unity takes action together. And that kind of unity is not built by chance, it's built by conscious decision. By people who understand that progress is not possible in isolation. That lasting change requires all hands, all minds, all hearts moving in the same direction, even if they come from different places. It starts in everyday moments, in the way people speak to each other, in the willingness to listen before judging, in the courage to forgive, in the strength to cooperate instead of compete. When people choose unity in the small things, they build strength in the big things. They create a culture that says we're not fighting each other, we're fighting for each other. For our future, our dignity, our dreams. And in a country like Iran, where potential is everywhere, unity is the missing key that unlocks the doors that have been shut for too long. Throughout history, the most significant transformations have come not when individuals stood alone, but when communities stood together. When voices merged into one call for change, when hands joined to lift what one person could not carry alone, that is where movements are born. That is where nations rise. And Iran has all the pieces: intelligence, resilience, creativity, strength, but they are only unstoppable when they are united under one purpose. It's not about waiting for a perfect leader or a perfect moment. It's about becoming the kind of people who turn toward each other, not away, who see diversity not as a threat, but as a strength, who build coalitions, not silos, who understand that the real power lies not in controlling each other. Iran's destiny will be determined not by what happens to it, but by what it decides to become. Every nation is tested by external events, by sanctions, by conflicts, by shifting global alliances. But the defining force is never what occurs on the outside. It is always what happens within. It is the internal decision of a people to rise, to grow, to build in the face of pressure. A country's future is not something it receives, it is something it creates. The turning point for Iran will never come from outside interventions or foreign opinions. It will come from a choice to see possibility where others see limitation, a choice to lead rather than follow, a choice to break cycles rather than repeat them. History is filled with moments when nations could have broken, but instead, they transform. They chose not to let circumstances dictate their identity. They chose to shape their identity by what they stood for, by what they were willing to work for, and by what they refused to settle for. Iran is at that same crossroads. The storms may come, the world may change, but the real question is not what happens next. The real question is, what will Iran choose to become next? That decision is not in the hands of the powerful alone. It's in the hearts of the people, in the minds of the youth, in the values taught at home, and in the boldness of those who still believe in creating a different future. Becoming something greater starts with vision. Vision is the fuel that drives progress. It is the ability to imagine what doesn't yet exist and believe it is possible. Iran's destiny hinges on the kind of vision its people choose to follow. A vision of independence, not just politically, but mentally and emotionally. A vision of innovation, not imitation. A vision that says we will not wait for the world to define us. We will define ourselves. With that kind of vision, a nation becomes magnetic. It starts pulling opportunities toward itself, not because of chance, but because of choice. The decision to become something greater draws in progress. It commands respect. It awakens dignity. And becoming something greater isn't about pretending everything is perfect. It's about facing what's broken with clarity and commitment, not blame. It's about taking ownership of what can be controlled and refusing to be a victim of what can't. The strongest nations are not the ones who avoid struggle. They are the ones who turn struggle into strategy, who turn pain into purpose, who turn crisis into course correction. That is how a country reclaims its direction, not by denying difficulty, but by responding to it with bold intention. Iran's future will not be decided in silence. It will be decided in the everyday choices made by individuals who choose to grow, to speak, to act, and to lift others as they rise. Each step matters. Every new business, every honest conversation, every innovation, every act of courage adds to the momentum of what the nation is becoming. The decision to become more is the most powerful decision any people can make. It is not made once, but daily. It is not made by one group, but collectively. It is not fueled by fantasy, but by action rooted in hope and strength. What Iran chooses to become will echo through generations. It will shape how its children dream, how its stories are told, and how the world responds to it. The decision to become more, to live with purpose, to lead with values, and to pursue greatness is the defining mark of a nation that owns its future.